Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about talking with individuals to help them make their businesses and their lives as successful as possible. And today, it's so much fun. I get to talk to another Deborah. That's always great fun. But we're going to go on a journey for part of this discussion today. And we're going to have so much fun because we're going to be talking with Deborah Johnson today. So Deborah, welcome to our program.
Thank you so much. And it's always fun to be working with another Deborah,
I know, especially spelled the old-fashioned way, right?
I know. And we go by everything. Deb, Deborah, Debbie, everything. Yeah. And it's a baby boomer name.
It is. It is definitely a baby boomer name.
Yeah.
So let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we will dive into this. So up for multiple GRAMMY Awards and spending over 20 years in the entertainment industry, Deborah Johnson has built multiple self-driven businesses and is an expert on how to constantly reinvent yourself in a gig economy. Deborah speaks and performs for both live and virtual events. And we're going to be talking about her book, The Summit. But we're really going to be talking a lot about there it is. You have to be Vanna. We're really going to be talking a lot about, how we continually, as you said, need to reinvent ourselves. So again, Deborah, welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you. I love the podcast format and platform because it really gives you a chance to really get to know each other.
It does.
In little ways with these interviews and be known pretty much all around the world.
Mm-hmm. Right. And isn't technology grand? I mean, it's one of the things that's been so interesting is, in the last 20-ish months,
yes,
how much it has taken a leap forward. I think we were going in that direction, but when all of a sudden we couldn't meet in person,
right.
These platforms have jumped up, and it's been so incredible to watch them.
And people have been that were saying, "Oh, I can't do tech. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, well, yeah, I have to do tech. I have to do tech,
mm-hmm.
and they've learned enough to be able to reinvent, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's just phenomenal to be doing that. Well, I always like to have my guests talk about how it is that they got to where they are today. And I mentioned in your bio that you've done multiple things. So tell us how it is that you got to where you are to know that as of right now, this is your passion in life.
Yes. Wow, it's quite the journey. And my book is about a journey, but all of us have our own little journeys. Mm-hmm. I did start in music when I was young. Mm-hmm. I had to wait for my piano teacher, which is a very good principle, by the way, because I was anxious to start. Mm-hmm. And I was 9 and a half. That was very important. Good age to start kids is actually 8 and a half to 9. Mm-hmm. So I started piano and I took up really, really fast. I have an ear as well. That's a natural thing. You can't always just develop that with people. So I could pick up stuff and just play it. But I studied classically as well, and became a concert pianist, classically trained, and vocalist as well. So I pursued the music career, touring. I did a lot of that. I've done a lot of headline entertainment and a lot of writing, composing as well. And when the market started shifting, I had some agents. I've worked a number of years, still work for Disney actually. And as it shifted, especially in the 2008 and 9 era, that I felt like that was a really big reinvent time. Now I've raised 3 kids and I'd already reinvented a couple times before, how we do as when we're moms and we're multitasking and I'm doing some instruction and doing all of that as well as some flyouts. But I had one of my agents was also a speaking agent, and I was noticing with some of these conferences that they weren't hiring as many music acts at that time. They were mostly like the acts that have been around for a while, and I was one of I wasn't known as much, although I had a real niche. But what they were hiring were speakers. And so that's when I started making this sort of, it was an expanding of my platform into the speaking area and the writing area. And I've absolutely loved that. It's another creative process. I've created throughout, because I've written 3 musicals, I've done all of that, I've done dozens of albums and all that, but it was the creative process. So I think when you find what your niche is and what you love to do, find that nugget that you absolutely love to do, and then you can expand from there, which for me it's really creating, whether it's creating products that'll help people, whether it's putting out new sheet music and video and all of that. So that's kind of the journey that it's been, quite and I never want to quit because I love what I do. And that's what I really help people at the halftime of life or mid-career. Are you going to love what you do for the next 20 years? Because you're probably going to do whatever you're doing. So figure out at least to do a little nugget of that and expand it. Yeah.
Yeah. The other day, somebody said, what are you going to do when you retire? And I went, what is that word?
I know.
And, I mean, that's one of the things, whether it's the gig economy or, a variety of things, people aren't retiring. They might be changing careers because they might actually retire from, job X, but then they're ready to go on and do something else.
Right. And this happens a big deal, like at mid-career, especially with this generation coming through, as we see the generation that's already had a job for a while, and all of a sudden they want to switch. And the millennial sort of, my kids hate being called millennial or anything like that. They just hate that. But really, I see in their lives too, as they're going through, they're bored. They're just bored. They want to to do those switch. And I told one of them, "Oh, you're almost at halftime," and he goes, "Oh, that's your thing," and it's like, because it's a mom. And I said, no, I know what I'm talking about. Because that is, as those 20-somethings, 30-somethings, they start approaching that, and they've worked in a job for a while. It's, that, what else do you want to do,
Right. So. And it is kind of interesting with the divisions, that we have created. I'm at the end of baby boomer. Yeah. And of course, baby boomers were, you got a job.
Yes.
You kept it forever.
For 30 years, 40 years.
And you didn't think about changing jobs. I mean, that was the thing. There was something wrong with you if you did. And all of this is leading up to discussing your book. But, it really was one of those things where that was what was expected of you. And women were expected to do the family thing.
Yes.
And then, they got to, kids have gone off to college or whatever. And they're like, now what do I do?
Yes.
But, and then we had the millennials that came along and the generation whatevers are after that. And they very much, it's funny. People say, ew, millennials. And I think they're the greatest in the world because, the ones I have talked to, oh my gosh, they are just absolutely
very
fascinating.
Yeah.
And I tell people, well, don't make faces at it. We raised them.
Exactly.
And of course we raised them to show them things can be different. You don't have to do the 30 plus year career. It's great for some people who do. My husband is one of those people. But, if you change jobs every couple of years, there's not something wrong with you, or all of those various things. And that's what I love about them is they're like, let's try something different this week.
Yeah, raise them to be independent thinkers so they can think for themselves. They don't always have to. But some people need a box. They just need that box.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Personalities like that, nothing against that. But it's nice to be able to have some options in exploring, I've known so many that say, oh, I just wish I could do what you do. And, I would love to expand my music and I'd love to do, and it's like, well, get a home studio, start doing stuff. You need to be a dad, you need to be a mom, but do a little something on the side and with that creativity, and you never know. And you see, at that point, and you see things expanding. So, but yeah, you can't just ignore that. Are you going to live? I read this fascinating book on the 5 biggest regrets people have upon dying. That sounds morbid, but it wasn't. It was so enlightening because a lot of people leave this earth regretting that they never pursued really what they wanted to do. And, I don't want to be one of those people. I won't. Right. So, but it's there's a lot of people that will. So.
Right. Yeah. And I think, one of the positives that came out of COVID was people really started exploring that. When you were working from home, first of all, you didn't have commute time. You're in LA, I'm in Atlanta, so commute times are horrendous. So you take away that 2-ish hours, and people are like, whoa, what am I going to do with them? And they found so many different things, but many found that they had time to explore the creative areas and the road not traveled things, and I think that's been one of the fascinating things is to talk with people and have them say, hey, I discovered I'm good at this, or I knew I was good at this, but and so that's been really a lot of fun.
That's a great point. We have we have 3 sons. One of them, which is amazing to me, that they're saying that he can do this for whoever knows how long, but he's an attorney. And he now can work completely remotely. So we got a dog. Yeah, I know. I mean, there's just all of these changes. Now our son, who's a fireman, that doesn't apply to.
Right. The essential workers.
Yeah, you got it.
And God bless them.
Oh, I tell you what, we need to appreciate those people. They work extremely hard, and the stories they have. But but it's given people a lot of options, and that's one of the very big deals on being able to have employee retention. What are you going to provide for your workers that are going to keep them around, to give them enough freedom so they feel like they can be a person? Yeah.
I think that's been one of the interesting things with the companies who have said, hey, we're going to bring you back in the office, and people are like,
it's like, why? Why?
I mean, it's just it's the mass exodus, and I think that's that has been one of the interesting things. Is I think so many people assumed that they wouldn't like working from home, and obviously it took getting used to, and getting the equipment and all of those various things. But I think most people really did discover they liked it. I think the drawbacks are that we need that in-person human interaction.
You are so right. You got to do it a little bit, at least. You've got to be able to space that out a little bit, because you really do. You need that sort of camaraderie ship, or is that the right word?
Right.
Camaraderie. But getting that together, the energy that it creates, because I'm an introvert, but I tell you what, I go crazy when I'm not around people at all.
Oh, yeah.
I just... I'm an entertainer. I'm an intentional extrovert, as I say, and get me, around people or on a stage. But it's very, you gather so much energy from people, and you learn so much, especially if you listen and ask those questions. And, it's fascinating.
Well, and how many times did an innovation come about when you were standing at the coffee machine or chatting before or after a meeting, all of those things. And of course we don't have those. Zoom is great, Teams are great. I mean, all of those various services that have come up. But it's those little things that I think companies are missing. And obviously for many of them, they don't need that, but others do.
Yes, definitely. You are right. Yeah.
So what we're kind of talking about these people who are starting on their own, or dabbling their toes in things like that. What have been some of the biggest challenges that you have faced with being a solopreneur, an entrepreneur?
Well, I think deciding what not to do is a big deal for me. I'm very project oriented. And I put deadlines for myself and working by myself and figuring out, okay, so what's really working? Because you can do project after project after project after project and then think, okay, is anything happening with it? So you have to kind of measure it that way and stand back and reevaluate. Because I work fast, I work efficiently. I've learned a lot of tech stuff. I've struggled. If anybody talks about tech, I've been there. I've been struggling. I've done just about everything.
We were having that discussion.
I tell you, a lot of stuff's happened. So, but I think as a solopreneur, I need to make sure I surround myself with the type of people that are going to inspire me to keep moving forward. There's hand selected people in my life that I feel like, I can trust those relationships. I can run things by them. I'm in a little bit different place. I'm not like a normal entrepreneur because I'm a creative, and it's a little different spot I'm in. And there's not a lot of people, when they talk about their normal little things, it's like, oh, I'm not on that, that plane at all, because everybody's doing that. Everybody's doing that. You're just cloning. It's part of the message of the book of the clones. I mean, there's a lot of people just doing the same sort of stuff. Well, I mean, with it, as a solopreneur, but as a creative as well, you have to evaluate what's working. And my husband's pretty good about this. I'm very fortunate. I'm still with the same man that I met on a blind date a number of years ago. He was a pro athlete, and we got married. And but he's really good in business and in finances and in kind of the big picture. So I can run. He's one of my best sounding boards. And especially at this time of my life. I mean, it was crazy raising kids, and we went through our...
Well, and you're in LA. I mean, that's just a total different level of crazy.
Well, I live actually kind of on the outskirts, so that's kind of nice. Love where I live. I'm on an acre and a quarter, which I love.
Oh, nice.
So I can have my own... I've always had my own office. So, but I think having the right people around, and as someone who... I would choose to just work by myself because that's what an introvert I could sit and focus, take my breaks, sit and focus. That's why I get so much done. But as a solopreneur and putting the right people around and connecting with the right people, that's also something, because I'm not a big, I'm going to just network with you because you'll help me get ahead. I'm just, that's not me. It's just not me. I don't work that way. You want to look at my work, and you can respect what I do, and I'll move ahead that way. So I think those are some of the challenges that I don't always choose. This is the way you can do it. And so in evaluating what is really working, because you get really, really busy when you're creating stuff, constantly. Right. I have to make up, really a calendar for myself that's realistic, that I'm not going to overdo, and make sure I plan in time for the connecting and for the type of relationships that I need to develop. Definitely.
Right. And it is hard to develop the right relationships. And that leads me to your book. Hold it up for those who are watching the video. It's called The Summit, Journey to Hero Mountain, and it's an allegory. So it's this great story about this young woman named Mallory. And there were so many things in it. It was funny. I was madly taking notes as I was reading about it. But it really, one of the first things it's talking about is you have to have the right people around you. Yes. And they might be people that you have to have in your life. I was about to say stuck with, but I didn't want to use that. Family and friends. I mean, that we've always had, but they're not the right people to be encouraging you with how you're moving forward.
Right. Yeah, that's very true. And in the story, Mallory, her name means ill-fated, by the way. Her mother thought it was a pretty name, but Mallory, you're so ill-fated, and people would make jokes about her name. But she needed to surround herself with not only the right kind of people, but to be able to follow a guide that she could trust.
Right.
and that happened. But she had a lot of self-doubt through that as well. Oh, am I doing the right thing? Or I'm gonna, and those voices that came, because
all those
she had
voices.
this friend Tama that was also she was always putting out the perfect meme and looked perfect and had all of this perfection, and you try to be like somebody, it's not going to work.
Right. And one of the big things for Mallory and all of us is, those people who are well-meaning. They want to protect you. They don't want you to get hurt, all of these various things. And so they say, oh, really? Is that what you want to do?
Right.
And all of those things. And I think that we have a hard time with, first of all, just accepting that, their advice might not really be the best advice in the world, knowing that it's well-intentioned. But then, of course, the hard part is then ignoring it in many cases.
Yes, because, and that's why throughout the book, I have Mallory journaling. And that was one of the requirements from the guide that she found in the first little place. Every time she was on track, she would find a place to stay the night. She brought her dog, Crockett, with her. And so they would have, everything was provided, the meal, everything. And on her first night on the table was that journal she was to write in. And that's one of the wonderful, great principles. It's one of the best self-help things you can apply to your life. And it doesn't need to, I always talk about the short, do a 90-day challenge. Write 2 lines a day. That's it. Just write. But it helps us to reflect. And when we have those voices coming at us, we can remember, oh yeah, I went through this already. No, I know that's a wrong decision. Or you can put out your feelings, to where if you're feeling guilty, oh, maybe I should go and do this and do that. And no, I need to stay true to what I'm doing. That's a very, very good principle.
Right. And it was Mallory's family and friends who were saying, you shouldn't go on that journey. And she was journeying to the summit, hence the title of the book. But, and they really did want to protect her. And then there were the mean people. And it's funny, I was on Facebook, and we're going to talk about the whole social media circus, but with somebody yesterday, and she said, what is up with women and why do they have to be? and I said, I call them the mean girls. And we all have them in our lives. And I always wonder, why? I mean, why do you have to be the mean girl? And they're not being helpful. They're being mean. And I know it happens with guys, but it's really funny because guys just kind of ignore it as smack talk. You mentioned that your husband is a professional athlete.
Right.
Guys do that all the time. And they're like, yeah, whatever. Hey, you want to go have a beer? And as girls, especially as little girls, we internalize that so much. And it's just weird how the lack of support that people do.
Yeah, and it can come from family. It can go. We're some people dread the holidays because
I know,
like Uncle Jeremy's coming or something. Oh no, or Aunt whatever, and they're always going to go, oh, why are you wearing that, or why are you doing that, or are you married yet, or
put on a couple pounds, have you?
Oh, yeah, that's another one. Or it just comes out wrong, and but you can accept it wrong. So as I always say, you have to have a slick back. Let her know.
Yeah, just let it.
But it's hard though with the well-meaning people, and I have faced it as well in my profession, and thinking I had to be, especially because I grew up. I have 2 sisters, and love them dearly. I was my middle sister's free accompanist on piano for years. She's a wonderful violinist. I featured her on one of my albums. She does an amazing job. It's called Wayfarer's Journey. It's an instrument. I did arrangements that she played the violin on. And but as an accompanist, this is what you feel sometimes. You are in the background, and you're doing everything to make that soloist look amazing. And something that she did, because she started very young, at age of 4, and so she was so good and playing along. Well, she'd skip a page, and
and a as the accompanist, you're like,
I'm accompanying, I'm thinking, oh, and I sounded horrible because I was trying to struggle, and it looked like I was making all the mistakes. So there's times in life to where you feel like, it just looks like I'm making all the mistakes. I'm just trying to keep up with who's ever doing the solo, and not really understanding that, no, I have a solo path myself. I'm good enough. I'm not insignificant. I'm not in the background. This is what my mission is. And I think a lot of people are afraid of taking that step forward. And I was afraid of taking that step. I thought, am I good enough? I mean, that's a big deal. Or, you know, that.
Well, and in the industry you're in, oh my gosh, you talk about a competitive industry.
Yeah. The 1% of the 1% work in this business. And I'm fortunate because I'm a woman and I play and sing and I write and I have an ear. So, you know, that I've worked for a number of years that way, and there's only certain type of jobs I want to be able to do. I pick and choose. Didn't want to always do club work. So, but it's very competitive that way. I've kind of stayed in my little area lane, and so that's perfect. But yeah, it's a very competitive business, and you know the whole. Promoting either the songs and the music and the musicals, and it just takes a lot of time. It just does.
Right. You know, and one comment can just ruin everything. You know, and I think that's, you know, and I mean, the same thing happens in business. I mean, all these, you know, the boss, the manager, the mentor might go, oh, really? Is that the direction you wanted to go in? And you really are, you're just crushed because you put your heart and soul, or maybe it was just, hey, this is my job, I got to do it. But you know, it's those other voices, you know, and the book is really about Mallory finding herself,
right,
and knowing, as you said, you know, she is enough. You know,
and that's another good thing that you just brought up, Deb, is sometimes you're passed up and you feel. You know, there's a lot of people with that, and they're working with a company, or they may even be working as a first responder and as some sort of, and they're passed up for another position, and all of a sudden you feel like, I'm just as good as everybody else, but yet maybe I'm not. And so it makes you question yourself.
The self-doubt. Oh my gosh.
And that's exactly what Mallory does face in this. She faces so much self-doubt, and she has to write that down. She has to come face to face with that and figure out that, yeah, I can do this. And she's given little signs along the way. And she always wears, if I had it for the video, I would have one right here. But she has to wear a band of hope on her right wrist. And it's a yellow band. She can never take it off. And her guide told her, always keep this on.
Always have hope.
Yeah. Always have hope. You've got to, if you lose hope, you lose everything.
Right. You know, and in the story, when she wavers, the band gets looser.
Yes.
And when she's on the right path, it's warm and tighter. And, you know, and I love that analogy because hope really is like that. You know, when we lose hope, we feel alone, we feel abandoned, all of those things. And sometimes it just takes that little warmth, that little, you know, it's funny. I have a tattoo, and, you know, for those who, where's my camera? It says warrior. And I got it after, you know, I'm actually a stage 4 cancer survivor. And so I got that, and I have it. It's kind of like the armband. I mean, I have it where I see it and I can touch it. Because, you know, on those times where you're thinking, I can't do this again, or, you know, all those, it's there, you know, and so you know, sometimes people need those kind of talismans to remind them, I can do this. And it's okay to have them. I mean, you know, we see people all the time with, again, back to the athletes, you know, they have their good luck charms and, you know, and things like that. But it is, you know, those things where when they have those, there's something about it that just gives that extra little boost. And of course, the band of hope really is, you know, that you have to always have hope. And when you don't, you know, things are not going to go the way you want.
Yes, and it was interesting at the end. I don't want to do a spoiler alert, but at the end of the book, you know, when she's meeting with her teammates and they're all doing this journey up the mountain. But all of the teammates, while they were training, they all saw that band of hope and all wanted one. And so when we wear that, we don't have to be perfect.
Right.
We just have to be doing what I feel like, what God calls us to do, or what we are meant to do. I'm always meant to do some sort of music, as well as my speaking message and but I incorporate it all in each with the arts and but with the speaking and the messaging and the books, love writing. But all of that is very attractive when people see that you are on track with getting to where you want to be, and they want a little bit of that too.
Right. We as we were saying, you have the people who go, but it's also the people who go, oh wow, tell me more.
Yes.
And you can be that mentor, you can be that inspiration. And sometimes it's something little. I mean, right? Somebody gets my order right at Chick-fil-A. I'm like, yay!
You actually got it. I love now they have screens. It's like, oh,
I know.
Gosh, you got it.
But yeah, it's and I think that's the thing too, is we always forget that what we're doing might be inspiring to someone else.
Yes, and and you really just do need to be yourself, and don't be afraid of being, who you are. You don't need to be some sort of persona or some sort of, influencer type. Just being who you are. And I think I served as president of our NSA Los Angeles chapter. I had a hard time getting that one out for a year. I had never had corporate experience. I taught in, graduate school. I've taught in colleges, Cal Poly, Pomona. I've taught other places. I've done a lot.
Then all of a sudden you had a board and you had committees.
Yes, I had a board. Yeah, I had all of that going, and I was a creator also, touring, and it was, at first I was feeling, I need to be a certain type. And I thought, you know what? These are people. I need to let them be a part of this journey. And so I just gathered the great people, gave them a chance to talk, timed them. But it went the year, and I was losing my parents that same year, a lot of stuff in my life. But I found by being compassionate with others and encouraging them, I had so much encouragement myself during that year. And I learned and grew a lot and knew I could stand center stage. I didn't have to prove anything. I was good enough on my own. I had the skills. I've flown bands across the country. I can lead an... I can lead this
and they
group.
Elected you, so clearly they had faith in you.
They had, yeah. So it's... you understand then, well, you're going to come from maybe a little bit different perspective, but you can do the job. You are equipped and you are good enough. And that's a great message for us all, to have that self-talk, to evaluate, that's what journaling's for. We can evaluate, but also to be able to have that self-talk that, yes, you can do it. Because what people hold back, they say, I've been meaning to do that. Well, then I talk to him again, and another year has passed. I mean, you haven't. What are you doing? You're not doing anything different, so it's going to be just the same.
Right? You do the same thing, you get the same results.
Exactly.
And what I loved about Mallory was, it obviously, it's like the book says, it is a journey.
Yes.
And I think that's the other thing. Sometimes we all think somebody's going to snap their fingers and we're going to be all better. We're going to read that next inspirational book. We're going to listen to, a podcast. And those are all part of it. I mean, that's, I listen to, I have a program on my phone called Blinkist. And it's, they take an entire book and they make them into blinks. Wow. Which are, so they take an entire book and they always average, I think, 15 minutes. And so they shorten it into basically the Cliff Notes version. But it's taking that information, whether it's Blinkist, whether it's a podcast, whether it's reading the books, all of those various things, and actually doing something about it.
Wow. That's, it's applying it, because we can read, we can listen. And with all of the podcasts, I'm constantly listening or constantly reading and listening to books as well. But it's how much we can actually apply. So that's why it's important to take those little notes. And I try to keep little notes of books that I've read or listened to, because you go back and go, oh yeah, I read that. Oh yeah, that was brilliant. Or yeah, definitely. But it's, there's so much information out there. I think the biggest help I can give with what I do at this point and the programs I provide is to make sure there's good accountability and that you're actually moving ahead. Otherwise, there's a lot of information. I can provide enough information, a ton of information, a ton of resources, but how I can help you best, I can make sure you get it done.
Right.
And give some
Otherwise, we're that
accountability
gerbil that's just in the wheel going round
Totally.
and round and round, and we never really get anywhere.
Yep, I know how to get things done. Period.
Right.
So,
And that was, of course, the key to Mallory. She had to keep going forward.
Yes.
In order to climb the summit, she had to get there.
yes.
And it wasn't easy. And I think that's the other thing is, we all sometimes we want it to be easy. And I wrote down, as I was reading the book, my overall impression of the whole book was that what we want is to stay safe.
Yes.
And so many times that's what holds us back. We don't want to get hurt. We don't want to risk financial ruin. I mean, all these various things. But I was curious, what were you hoping people would get out of it?
Well, I was hoping, first of all, that they would understand that it's important to have a goal of, where, and not to be afraid of taking that step. Because when she saw that announcement, first announcement that's in the book, it's like, okay, well, I think it might be the time to do this.
Right.
And to actually commit to it, to do it.
And she did baby steps. I mean,
baby steps. Yeah. And it was because she had a guide, and the guide, I never gave the guide a name.
Right. There's no persona for the guide. It's just the guide.
It's just a guide. You can interpret that however you want. But yeah, the baby steps in doing that. But she had to decide to keep going and to keep going on the right. And so really the whole message of this is to make that sort of commitment, not to be afraid of making the commitment, even though you have the naysayers. With that her town was Babel, even though you have the naysayers in Babel, and this is the way you've always done it. This is the way we always need to do it. And, but there's little magical things that happen along the way. She's given these jewels and she thinks, oh, these would be great. I mean, I'd be set for the rest of my life. She needs to spend them. They were provided to her to spend. And it's almost like what we've been provided, the gifts that were provided that we need to spend. And otherwise,
nobody knows you have them.
Yeah, we'll be buried, 7 feet under with those, So, and what good does that do? So to be able to spend what we are provided. So there's a lot of little principles in here. I'd love, and everybody's going to apply something a little bit different. And there's going to be a character, and that's why there's characters in it.
I know. I'm reading it, going, oh, that's so and so.
Yes, yeah. You can identify with someone else, or that. Oh, I don't want to be a Shamir. Oh my goodness. I mean, those are some of the comments that I've gotten from there. So you can see little things in this because an allegory is a story within a story. So you have, those principles that you are going to provide or glean from that as you read the story that's entertaining. And one of the hardest parts about writing, it applies to songwriting as well and musicals as well, is cutting it down into making it simple enough and easy to read, which it is, that you can apply those things. It's not like all of this, you're not thrown this information. It's the stories like, I've been in that situation. I can understand when I see pictures on the wall and it looks like, it's just like that, right?
Everybody's watching me.
Yeah, the haunted castle at Disney, where you see, everybody, those eyes are all moving toward, so where you feel that sort of feeling, whether you are in your work situation, whether you're in your home situation, whatever you are, and to be able to overcome some of that, because once she became centered, they stopped following her. Right. So those sort of little magical things, but we all think that way. So yeah.
Right. And the journaling part was so important. And it's funny because I don't journal. And I always think, gee, maybe I should. But that was her conversation with herself.
Right.
You know, and as she would write it down, she'd go, well, you know, golly gee, I can do this.
Yes.
You know, and so and she literally had conversations with herself as she was going through the journey.
Right.
She would say, you know, I can.
Yes.
I can, you know, and she would yell it and things like that. And we don't want to give away the whole story because we do want people to get it. But yeah, it was, you know, through every part, you know, and it's very well written because I would go, oh yeah, I've experienced that. You know, and then it was like, oh yeah, she got through it. So, you know, I can do this too. You know, or you see, okay, well, this is why I didn't get through it. You know, I listened to those voices. I was too timid. I wouldn't give up my you know, my funds, you know, the jewels that she did. You know, and so, yeah, it was very interesting to read.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. It was probably one of the most fun books that I've written. It's a little bit of a self-help book as well, because you're going to, you know, gain some of those principles. But very fun, very much like the musical scripts I've written.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. Are you going to set it to music?
Yeah, it's very similar to that. It was difficult in that way with character development, and I worked with a couple different editors that really pushed me, which I was thankful for. You hire those editors to push you to do your best, and they did. Right. And so that was a really good thing for me.
Right. You know, and that comes back to, you know, part of what we were talking about, having that team. And, you know, I talk with a lot of people who are small business owners who feel, you know, and this is pre-pandemic, very isolated, you know, very alone. They think, you know, part of it is they think they have to do it all on their own. And I tell them, I'm sorry, you know, you wouldn't go to a cardiologist, or you wouldn't try and do open heart surgery on yourself, you know. So, you know, it is about getting that team of people around you. And as you know, as you talk about in the book, making sure it's the right people, those who are, you know, they're not going to be the Pollyannas. You know, they might say, you know, let's think about this. But it is about getting those right people around you who are supportive.
Yeah, and that's a really hard. Those are hard decisions, Deb, because you're finding the right people and keeping them. If you have the wrong person, it can really, really mess you up, as most people know. And it's better, you know, that's why I work by myself a lot. I do a lot of things that probably I should be able to hire out, a lot of my production, and I actually enjoy the production. Fast at it. I'm good at it, you know. Right. So I'd like to hire out. I have VAs that I'll just hire, you know, for different things. And I had a VA for a couple years. Actually, did really well until she really, really messed up.
Oh no!
And it was like, okay, no, I cannot afford doing that. I've had other assistants. I've had interns. Had a number of interns, college interns, until I had one again that really, really messed me up. And so, you know, so you keep going on that track until it's not going to work. But it's just kind of interesting. We do need to have the right type of help, but you're going to have different help that you need at different stages as well. You know, you can get to a point where now I can hire in that help, because some people go, oh, I need an assistant because I'm so busy. You have to have the time to have an assistant. Right. You have to be able to program them and keep them busy, and you don't realize how much time that takes sometimes. Right. So.
Yeah, and you know, my producer for this program, you know, I've had several people before, and it's funny. I asked her the other day how long, and she said, I think we're getting ready to start our 4th year. So clearly we work very well together. Wow. But a big part of it was, first of all, I had to let go, you know, right? You know, just because somebody does it differently doesn't mean it's wrong. Right. You know, but I also had to have clear expectations. I mean, you know, when I finally figured out I had to do, hey, we have thunder here. Hopefully we don't go away. You know, when I had to sit, you know, really think, okay, I need a job description. You know, she can't read my mind. She doesn't, you know, all these various things. And you know, and that's, I think sometimes when we get a team member, we think they're so smart, they should just know what to do.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, you put yourself in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
If someone hires me for something,
Mm-hmm.
thinking, oh, they just think I can just do
Right.
whatever.
If they tell you,
And
hey, Deborah, we need a new song and nothing more.
and I don't want to write the wrong song because it's a waste of my time.
Right.
And for someone else that, they're going to do a project for me, if they're going to do a video edit, or if they're going to do a graphic to download, or whatever they're going to do. I don't want them to waste their
Right.
time. Plus, I'm very conscientious. I'm going to use the budget I have, very smart. And so I think that direction, in understanding how much is behind all of this is very, very important, and
Right.
finding the good help.
Right. And I think it does come back to, we don't have to do it alone.
Right.
It was interesting in the book that when Mallory went on the journey, she took her dog,
Yes.
who's clearly not going to be able to do anything,
Right.
but he still did. I mean, part of it was that companionship, but there were also times where it was like, the dog was saying, no, we need to go this way.
Yeah.
And like I liked one of the parts in the book where the dog was running happily amok and Mallory started skipping, and so, it doesn't, you don't always really think, hey, what is this person, this dog, this whatever going to provide? It's just, maybe they're just supposed to be there.
Yes, the companionship, and she didn't want to, be all by herself, and it was a nice little element. And I have to tell you a funny story, because I did readings on this as well. I've never done that. I've done that in musicals, but I've never done it in a book like this. But it was suggested by one of my editors. Why don't you do a reading? So we read through. I had a little group of people 3 days in a row, and that we read through it. And I took some notes, and maybe what was not understood or what was hard, because I did the audiobook as well. So I wanted to make sure it read real well. And we got to the end and had the question, what happened to Crockett? What happened to the dog?
I know. I was like that, but where'd Crockett go?
Where did he go? So I had to write an epilogue. I had to write. There was you can't leave a character hanging, and
Right.
so that was what came out of this process of writing. That'll be interesting to all you writers out there. But part of this process is figuring out, what do I need more of, and what don't I need more of?
Right.
What have I repeated? So that process actually really helped me in this type of book.
Right. And it's that way with projects and things too. You're working on
course.
something and it's like, well, okay, somebody told me the other day, it's like baking a cake.
Yeah.
There's different variations you can do, but there's still some basics,
Right. Right.
Right.
And they call that in musical theater writing. The first time I heard this term, it was like, it's called killing your babies.
Right.
That you have to cut a scene, and that happened because I was producing 2 of my musicals for the world premieres, and as a writer, and especially with my musical Tsarina, which is based on the Russian Revolution, and it's a love story between Nicholas and Alexandra. It's beautiful. Anyway. There was a scene that I don't think we need this scene. It's like, oh, I love that scene, or I love that song. You have to be willing to cut it completely, because it didn't move the story forward. So there's part of this in our writing and our creating that we have to understand. We have to be willing to let go. We have to be willing to let go of a work project. And I've actually let go of a couple things to be more focused in my work, because I have a million things going all the time. And what I'm wanting to focus on this year, as I'm doing looking at yearly, and is my keynote speaking, live and virtual, and the material with that, my Hero Mountain Summit, with all of the material there, because this is all along with the Hero Mountain Summit, because the summit is Hero Mountain.
Right.
It's what I have trademarked. I have all of that stuff. And then also the music publishing. I have so many. I just released another video that was with a Christmas album. I think I did it 18, 20 years ago. It seems like I could never sing the song I did as fast as I sang it now.
I love it.
It's great sheet music. I'm putting out more sheet. I have hundreds of pieces of sheet music that I've put out. So those focused goals on what's going to make a difference when I take my last breath. What am I going to want to leave, as well as as during these years, another 20 years, where do I want to be? And so I think every year it's a really good time to reevaluate that, definitely.
Right. And now is obviously a great time to do that, because we are
Yes.
at the end of the year, and to be thinking. And it's interesting, a lot of times when I'm talking with business owners, sometimes the product or service that they love, or they maybe they make the most money from it, things like that. Maybe that's what they need to let go of.
Right.
Just like in the book where Mallory had to let go of the career that she had for years,
Yeah.
because it was what people told her she should do.
Right.
And she was like, but
Yeah.
and so it really is. I mean, it's very hard to let go of those things, and we've been talking about people, sometimes you have to let go of those people, and all those various things. But when, we only have, a certain space,
Right.
time, all those things. And so when you let go, then you have space for something new.
And that's a great point, Deb, of letting people go. That's really hard emotionally. And I talk about in one of the books I wrote called Women at Halftime. That's the title of my podcast as well. But I go through the steps within Hero Mountain, because it goes through all of those steps. And one of them is on relationships. And I talk about the close circles and who your circles of relationships are. And you might need to push somebody out into an outer circle, right. Because they're time suckers. And there's certain people in our life, and I kind of nod my head and go on, because I can't spend a lot of time with people that are going to suck up my time. That's one of your most valuable resources that you have, is your time.
Right.
And with my priorities, still with my family, I mean, they're always going to be a priority of mine. And my work that I love, but I don't want those relationships getting in the way that are going to be just absolute emotional and time suckers on me. And just choosing, there's people that'll be around me always, I can be around them, but you can choose those sort of relationships, and it will help move you forward, and not feeling like you're entrapped with those sort of relationships.
Yeah. I discovered that when I was so ill, that there were certain people, dynamics, all those various things that it was like, that's, and to this day, we have even more thunder. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's like, holy schmoly. You have to push them aside, because when you get sucked into it, both mentally and physically, it is detrimental.
Of course.
And
exhausting.
And it doesn't mean that you don't want to help them, things like that. But, and I did. There were some people that was like, no, I'm just not going to deal with you anymore. Because when I would just feel all, and it's like, I wish you well, but.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good for the stress, and it's not good. It's not good for you physically, especially as you went through, the stages of cancer. Oh my goodness, like the stress that. That's sickness in itself. So you have to understand that, I need to do a little self-help too, and understand where I'm at. So that was very wise of you, definitely.
And again, drawing in the positives. One of the things, not to go down this road far, but one of the things that I discovered was I had people who cared a great deal about me that I never even was sure knew I existed.
Wow.
And it was very interesting. A lot of people sent gifts, which I treasure. But some of the gifts that I got were just, they really were incredible. I got one, and you'll appreciate this. And it's a handmade teddy bear. So that's just cool, just because it's a handmade teddy bear. But in her card, and this was a woman who really, I did not knew I existed.
Yeah.
And so she sends me this bear, and she tells me my church choir prayed over this. And I was like, okay, this is going to be mine forever. It was just,
that means a whole lot.
Yeah. It was just the coolest thing in the world. It has, this space away from where the cats, the dogs, nobody gets it. And if, a young child ever looks at it, I'm sure I'm going to be going, but yeah, it was just, it's interesting when you open yourself up, whether it's personally, professionally, whatever, the good comes in, and
Yes.
really many times it is very unexpected.
It really is. It really is. So that's neat. That what a great story.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, oh my gosh, this is why I set a timer, because it's,
This
and
has
we didn't
flown
get to talk
by.
about some of the other things that in the book, because she has a name change, and I was like,
Yes,
why did
yes,
she
she
change
did
it?
because it meant ill-fated.
Mm-hmm,
See, and her name changed to Andriette, which
mm-hmm.
means strong and courageous.
Yes.
And she
Mm-hmm,
had to have that sort of and be willing
mm-hmm,
for that to happen.
mm-hmm,
And it's a story, but
mm-hmm,
it was for her to own that.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, yeah.
And this really, I mean, I want to learn more about your podcast and more about what you do. So tell us how people find you, and all of the services that you provide.
Well, I have a number of websites, which is
Mm-hmm.
it should not be a surprise because I am a creative. Okay,
Yeah,
so
and you have different websites for different things. I do too. I'm like, sometimes I
exactly.
get confused as to where I'm sending people.
Yes. Focusing on my speaking, you can always find me at deborahjohnsonspeaker.com
Okay.
because there's millions of Deborah Johnsons.
Yeah.
Literally, I think there's millions. So, but
Mm-hmm.
deborahjohnsonspeaker.com. But you can also, a lot of the meat of my material you can
Mm-hmm.
find on goalsforyourlife.com.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all together, goalsforyourlife.com.
Mm-hmm.
I have a newsletter that comes out every week. So if you do
Mm-hmm.
goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter, you will find the link. I've had it going over for 20 years. Great little article. I put an article out with every single podcast with a lot of links and a lot of help. I really want to help you move ahead. And there's always new music coming out too, so you don't want to miss that. So that's goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter.
Okay.
And then people always ask, "Oh, where can I find your music?" So the music is on DJ Works Music. That was .com. That's been a website I've had for a number of
Right.
years. DJ
Isn't it cool that DJ and Deborah Johnson are?
Isn't that something?
It was fate.
That DJ was Deborah Jean when I grew up.
Oh,
And
okay.
I started calling it DJ Works when I was in junior high school making cards for friends and neighbors. So it was DJ Works. So I just stayed with it. DJ Works Music before DJ was, even popular. So you can find that there. I do have Hero Mountain Summit coming up this next year for individuals and for companies and corporations. It's a partnership program that I will help your leaders and to help you with your teams with Hero Mountain Summit to be able to get to your summit. Employee retention, I get the CE, I've got all the language for the CE units for that. So that's really where I'm kind of focusing on that, and also music publishing. So, but if you get my newsletter, you'll find the updates will all be on there. It comes out every single week. And so you'll get all of that. It's just when I release new videos, you'll get them first. So if you're on that, goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter.
Perfect.
Boy, that's a
I
mouthful.
love it. I know. And it's so fun, and I can't wait to sign up for it. And then of course you have several books, but the book we're talking about is The Summit.
Yes.
Journey to Hero Mountain, and you can find it on Amazon, all those various places.
Of course.
So and it really is a quick, fast read. It's 156 pages anyhow.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting read. I mean, it is a story, and you get caught up in it. It's like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to Mallory next? And
I know.
And like, where'd the dog go?
I know. I'm so glad I brought that. And I love, as much as I love like the ebooks and I listen to audiobooks all the time, but I love a physical copy too.
I know.
I did these hard copies this year. It is a great gift book. It is a wonderful, and some of the reviews I've had, it's like, this is not just for midlife or for,
I was thinking like teenagers.
Oh, it's totally. I mean, I think a lot of the teen, late teens, early 20s, it's perfect for that time. If they will read. But there's the audiobook too. And the audiobook is out. I produced the audiobook. It's very good. It's very fun. It was very fun to produce. And that's very enjoyable. But having that hard copy, that's something that people get lost.
There is something about the tactile part of it.
Yeah, it's just a great feel. I wanted that feel. So yeah, definitely. So
I love it. Well, oh my gosh, like I said, we didn't get through everything I wanted to talk about. So that just means we have to have you on again. And so that will be a delight.
You are delightful.
But, do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
Well, I think my final thought would be don't be afraid to be who you are. I think because it's the end of the year, and I'll always have some sort of little different message, I think, depending on when it is. But I think being true to yourself and understanding your uniqueness. Something I've done, I started teaching piano when I was 13 years old. I taught to neighbor kids because I didn't want to pull weeds and didn't want to babysit the 5 kids next door. So I started teaching piano. But I could find their sweet spot, their uniqueness, because very few go in that field. But to be true to who you are and what your uniqueness is, and enjoy life. It happens so fast. Something my dad told me is, I'm not afraid of dying. I know where I'm going, but I really like living. And when he found out he was sick, we had 11 weeks with him.
Oh, wow.
I really like living. And I'd love to leave that message with you today, that if something's in the way of that, figure it out somehow. Do that, those short journals. You don't, but I'm a big believer in that because I think it really helps you think through your thought process.
Right.
It's good to get it down. So,
and it's that tactile thing again.
Totally. I'm very visual and very, physical on that. Yeah. So I hope I didn't go on too long on that, but I think
it's wonderful. And
I could encourage you in that.
I think that it's great. And this really has been a delight. Time always flies when I'm doing these programs, but I can't wait to chat with you again. And we will do that. And so until then, I'm Deb Creer. Been having a great time talking with Deborah Johnson, and everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.